Hello, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I'm showing you a MicroStrategy chart here on the monthly. A couple of things. Announcement number one is I'm going to try to work on getting a new mic, so don't be surprised if my audio turned out to be drastically improved over the next week or two. I'm working on it. Thank you so much for your feedback. And a couple other things here too is a lot of people wonder about the whale indicator that I'm showing you down here called NCDX Plus is available in TradingView, is locked, and it is provided by Turtle Trader. The name is KGIAP123, and you may have to reach out to Turtle Trader to try and get access from it, and there might be a subscription that is involved. But anyway, I'm not here to sell subs or anything. I'm just here to answer a question in terms of where I'm getting this from. The red over here generally stands for institutional whales. Basically tells you there's a lot of institutions being in the stock right now. Green right here generally represent more retail or just weaker buying in general. And the yellow over here tells you a little bit more about what the daily traders or monthly traders or weekly traders are doing. So the yellow generally can really ignore. Stocks generally go up a lot higher when the red bar flashes very, very strongly, and that's when you really know there's a lot of whalish momentum that are going. So this is, again, monthly chart of MicroStrategy. A couple of things I want to show you in terms of what the whales are doing. They're still present. There's not really a whole lot of a green bar right here for the month of June, is it? Even though price has basically gone sideways up here, hadn't really done anything, and basically formed a doji candle. But the interesting thing is that the green has just completely disappeared. And this is generally a very, very good sign in terms of what's happening in terms of whalish momentum. And a couple other things. You're looking at different time frames here too. For example, this is the monthly. Look at the 2 week. You can see that the whales are very, very heavily in during this sideways consolidation over here. You can look at the weekly. You can also see the whales are predominantly in really over the last few weeks or so. On the daily, you're going to see a lot of fluctuations, but these fluctuations don't really matter that much because these are just daily fluctuations. For the most part, whales are still in. There's not really a whole heck of a lot of retail presence. Even though the whales have gotten a lot weaker over the last couple of days, but these are just kind of daily fluctuations. It's not as significant as like the 2 week, which you see a lot of whalish momentum. You also see the monthly here with a lot of whalish momentum. Does this translate into any real world data? Let's look at fintel.io. This is the MicroStrategy site under Fintel. You can see so far it's about 62.5% of institutional accumulation. And if you also just kind of look at who really owns MicroStrategy, you can see like Vanguard owns about 10%. You can see that BlackRock owns about like 7.5%. Jane Street owns about 3.5%. So these are real institutional ownership that are happening. If you also look at institutional ownership in terms of what's been happening for the month of June, you can see there's a huge spike right here for institutional ownership. So there's something to say about maybe a lot of whalish momentum that are coming, even though price has kind of gone sideways for about 3 or 4 months or so. These whales or these financial institutions, they have a lot of tools that we don't have access to. For example, they can buy stocks through like dark pool and without really affecting the price. They can end up just increasing the accumulation of what they need to get in terms of stocks. It may not necessarily be reflected upon price, but eventually it will, because it's all driven by supply and demand. And when there's a significant buying behind the scene, eventually it generally would reflect into price, right? But so far, that's kind of what I'm seeing on the whale watching here. Very, very interesting data that I'm seeing. And this also has to do with something about the fact that there's a lot of people shorting Bitcoin. And when people are trying to short Bitcoin using financial instruments to try to play leverage, it generally never really plays out very well for these shorts. I don't know why people are doing it, to be completely honest. Like Bitcoin looks like it wants to form another all-time high pretty soon. So you might be playing with fire if you end up trying to short here. But people do it because you are right at resistance. I'm going to show you a little bit more data as to why that is. But the trend is strong, right? One thing I like to look at usually is something called the Ichimoku cloud. The Ichimoku cloud is a way to calculate some of these moving period averages, and it comes to these few lines over here. What you really need to know, a couple lines here, is the blue line called the Tenkan or the conversion line, which is a leading line. In the bull market, it generally serves as support to push price up higher. And you also have a lagging line here, the red line called the Kijun. The Kijun is a baseline, and it lags behind the Tenkan. And when you have a bullish Tenkan Kijun cross here, such as in December 2023, for the month of MicroStrategy on this monthly Ichimoku cloud, you can see that price had gone up in a very, very nice manner afterwards, and price can continue to go up for perhaps another 12 to 18 months, usually after a monthly cross like this. And what you're seeing also is the Tenkan serve as very, very good support, and you can see that throughout the entire bull market over here has been testing a support, push price up higher. Whenever price got a little bit too far from the Tenkan, generally it gravitates back towards the Tenkan, right? Just such as for the month of March, it gravitates back towards the Tenkan down here. And so far we're finding pretty solid, good support down here for it to potentially launch up even higher. So a lot of pretty, positive things are happening right here as we speak, right? Now, in terms of, if you look at from other time frames, actually, before we move on, you can see that there's also the Ichimoku cloud here is being calculated based on the moving period averages. And you can see that these clouds over here, sometimes it can serve as support, sometimes it can serve as resistance, just like these lines over here. I don't think it's necessarily going to have to back test the cloud. I think it's probably going to end up pushing up higher because it's a bull market. Tenkan's most likely going to end up pushing up higher. But you can see how it sometimes perfectly serves as resistance over here, and some of the lines down here can serve as support to push price up higher over time, right? On the weekly, you can also see that price had to back test some of these lines down here, back tested the Tenkan and back tested the Kijun, found support of the Kijun for a very, very nice hammer candle over here. These are generally very, very significant bottoms. So this is a very, very nice bottoming candle over here. And price bounced back up above the Tenkan. And looks like it might be ready to get going pretty soon, right? Especially when you have a lot of wellish momentum over here. So that's what the Ichimoku cloud is showing me. Now, going back to the monthly here, what else am I seeing? If I pull up the Bollinger Band, you can see that the Bollinger Band is also telling you that you got a really, really nice bull trend here. You're not really having any exhaustion because you're not closing above the upper Bollinger Band for like half a year in a row, unlike this last bull market over here. Like, this is a parabolic bull trend that got exhausted because price just can't just keep closing above the monthly Bollinger Band for like half a year without resting, right? So far you have gone up 2 months, rested, back inside, another 2 months, rested, back inside, right? And right now we're kind of being gravitated to the upper Bollinger Band over here. And looks like the Bollinger Band wants to continue to expand, like the lower Bollinger Band already expanded all the way down. And upper Bollinger Band looks like it wants to keep going higher. So we'll see what happens, give it some time. Most likely it's going to end up pushing up a lot higher. Now, if you look at the RSI, you can also see that there's not really any sign for any significant bearish divergences or anything like that. And also price is no longer really getting overbought anymore at all, and there's potential room for it to go a lot higher right now. If price ends up going higher, there might be a little bit of bearish divergence over here that has to fight through on the monthly before you're able to push the price up higher. But in general, the key thing is, in general, price can go up a lot higher on bearish divergence. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about that, but there might be a little bit of a sign for a little bit of a trend exhaustion over here. But I still bet, based on everything I'm looking, I still bet that price is probably going to end up pushing higher, and I don't think that we're going to be ending the bull market yet at this point. I think it's probably going to go for another year or so based on what I'm seeing. That's kind of what I'm seeing here on the monthly. On the weekly, you also see potentially it could be building up a little bit of a bearish divergence if price goes up, but again, price can keep pushing up a lot higher on bearish divergence, especially when the whales haven't left yet. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. Very, very nice volume signature telling you that it's probably going to be going higher as well, because you see buy volume goes up and sell volume goes down. And right now we're just kind of consolidating sideways when whales are secretly coming in. So something very interesting to keep in mind. Now, the question is going to be, why did we end up getting stuck up here at around 1700 for such a long time? When you mean a long time, you're really talking about just a few weeks. So for the impatient people, let's talk about the resistance and support levels and as to why price are getting stuck right up there, right? I'm going to pull up the GAN that I did, and as you can see throughout the entire bull market, what it's really been doing is it's just been breaking one arc and then trying to break these horizontal support zone over here, and also trying to break these Fibonacci levels on the way up, right? And really, so far, what price is doing right now is most likely going to end up gravitating up towards the arc, and we'll see whether or not we can push about these arcs over here. It got rejected over here for the month of March, right? We'll see whether or not we have garnered enough energy to really try and push about these arc and potentially hit some of the higher targets up here, perhaps hitting 2000 again. After that, you're really talking about like the 3000 to 3200 range up here. And then after that, you're really talking about potentially some of these hard fit levels up here, potentially at 4 or 500, something ridiculous as a parabolic top is a possibility. It doesn't have to. Obviously, the bull market potentially end up here around like 3000 or 3200 at the 2.618 Fibonacci level. That's entirely possible. Could the bull market be end up here with the bearish divergence that I'm going to show you here earlier? Potentially, but I really have a hard time seeing that with the whalish momentum coming in. And also Bitcoin looks like it might be breaking out soon. So a couple of things, again, pushing up above these levels would be important. Another thing to kind of show you as to why price has been kind of stuck around this range is because if you look at a volume shelf, we're really kind of stuck underneath this volume shelf over here, which is going to be around like 17,000 or so. So once you break about 17,000, you're really talking about not a whole lot of volume shelf over here, resistance over here. These are basically the prices where stock has traded hands the most at. Right now, these volume shelf or volume anchor profiles over here is telling you that this price over here is going to serve as potentially a lot of friction or a lot of resistance versus support, right? You really want to flip this level around here from resistance to support. And right now we're just kind of right underneath of that. We're waiting to break out, but we're kind of stuck in a range between the between the volume shelf up here as well as some of the Fibonacci and some of the candle levels down underneath. So that's kind of where we are right now, and that's why price is not really going much faster, because we're right at resistance waiting to break out. Is the breakout going to happen? Possibly. I mean, the cycle consolidation on declining volume has been happening for really like 2 or 3 months now. I think we've corrected enough through price as well as through time. Most likely the next step is going to be end up pushing up higher based on what I'm seeing, based on volume, based on well signature and everything else. So that is MicroStrategy. If you look at another related stock, and this stock's going to look very, very similar to MicroStrategy in terms of the structure of its market. It's going to be Coinbase. Coinbase is very, very similar in terms of the whale accumulation from different time frames. You can see that the monthly, they've just been over the last 3 or 4 months going sideways, but there's some slightly increase in whale over here the last 3 months or so, with declining on retail over here too. And if you look at a finer time frame, let's say a 2-week chart, you see that the retails have basically kind of all left, and right now you have some pretty strong institutional presence here for Coinbase. Same thing here on a weekly chart, although the whales are a little bit weaker. Instead of being bright red, it's a little bit of a lighter red over here. But you can still see there's not really a whole lot of significant retail left being over here. There's going to be a lot of fluctuation in terms of the daily. When you're having a lot of consolidation, a lot of times you're going to have the decreasing in whale presence or whale momentum. But you can still see on the daily there's really not a whole lot of retail left over here, right? So this whale watching is really telling us that whales tend to want to stay in Coinbase potentially for it to break out of the zone. Okay? If you pull up a couple other indicators over here, try and figure out what's going on. Again, not a whole lot of exhaustion here for the RSI. Maybe price could go up a little bit higher on bearish divergence, but it could break bearish divergence if it continues to increase RSI above 65 or so, which is entirely possible if you get another pretty parabolic move up. Ichimoku Cloud is telling you have the bullish cross here in February 2024, and price just might gravitate out above the Tenkan and Kijun. It got way too far, way too fast for March. It just kind of had to correct sideways through time, as well as correct through price down here for the month of April. But eventually, I think we've consolidated enough. I think we've cooled down enough. Most likely going to end up being able to push up a lot further. On the weekly, it's also showing you some very, very nice development here, where price has basically kind of went back down over here to get close to the Kijun. but it was able to bounce from that area, and right now it's got back above the Tenkan and it's serving as support level over here, potentially allowing price to go a lot further. It's no longer stuck in this range, right? So there are a lot of these kind of positive findings over here. In terms of going back to the monthly chart, look at the Bollinger Band. You can see that, again, very, very nice cool down. 2 candles above Bollinger Band, 1 candle below, 2 candles above, 1 candle below. So far, there's another 2 and 3 candles underneath the upper Bollinger Band, which is actually a very, very healthy bull trend instead of just being all exhausted and getting all euphoric. And that's when you really worry about the top, right? The upper and lower Bollinger Band continues to expand, right? There's no reason to think that this trend is over quite just yet. It could keep on going up a lot higher over time as the Bollinger Band continues to expand, allowing price to go up higher. If you look at the weekly, there's also really not a whole heck lot of overextension over here. It's starting to get a little bit squeezy. Maybe a big move is coming over the next few weeks. We'll see. If you look at the bull market support band, which is basically incorporating the 20-week moving average, then it's also served as very, very nice support during the entire bull market upwards for the whole last year and a half, right? We just bounce off of it and it's serving as very, very good support. Looks like the band's also wanting to continue to possibly slope upwards as support to push the bull market up further. So all these things are actually very, very much lining up together to tell you that, hey, something good might be happening. I just want to take a quick look at the daily here. Again, a little bit squeezy here, and it ends up having a pretty decent move up for the last 2 weeks. I wonder if it's going to end up continuing to go up over time. Right? We'll see what happens. Now, a couple other things too is to look at the resistance and support level using Gann as well as Fibonacci. And if I just put up the Gann here, you can see that for the month of June, it has pushed back above the 0.5 Fibonacci level, and right now price most likely end up gravitating back to the 0.618 level. See whether or not we're able to break through that this time. Got rejected over here for the month of March, right? Confluence with this as well as the angle over here. But right now, if you're able to break through these Fibonacci level, we're really talking about the next price going to gravitate to is around $400, potentially $500, right? And if the cycle ends up going higher, and there's no guarantee it's going to end up going higher, but if the cycle ends up going higher after it breaks around $400 to $500, you can potentially hit all the way up here at this arc over here, close to about 900 to 1,000. That is possible, and which would be very confluent with the 2.618 Fibonacci level, which is currently around $1,073. This is a potential target for this cycle, but it doesn't always have to hit, right? You're talking about a lot of resistance before you get there. So we'll see what happens with price over time, but so far is looking pretty promising. Now, if you're wondering why price has been stuck around this range over here for quite some time, very, very similar thing to MicroStrategy, basically trying to get over this top of volume shell over here around 280, which is confluent with the 0.618 Fibonacci level. You have this price been around this level for about half a year back in 2021, so you're going to end up having a lot of stock being traded hands around this level, and this could potentially serve as a little bit of resistance before breaking out, and that's just kind of where we are right now. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Now, that's Coinbase. To look at the last one, give you a little bit of update. Again, I just did this really quickly with Danny on another video that you can watch, but I just want to go through this quickly here. Robinhood. These whale data, MCDX Plus, is very, very similar to what Danny is seeing. On the monthly, you can see increase in whales. On the weekly, you can also see the lack of retail. And same thing on the daily, you can see a complete lack of retail. So far this stock has very, very good whalish momentum going for it. And if you also look at the Ichimoku bullish cross here in February 2024, price got way too far, way too fast, had to correct sideways as well as by price for the month of April, but it just couldn't wait for it to go up higher. It just looks like it's very, very impulsive price action over here. The weekly Ichimoku cloud is not going to tell you too much. It just looks very, very bullish. Got back above the Tenkan, and it just looks like the Tenkan is just trying to get dragged up as support on the way up higher, right? Very, very nice look to this. If you look at the monthly Bollinger Band, you can see that currently price is just a little bit outside of upper Bollinger Band, but I like how it's kind of spending 2 months above, cool down, and then this is the second month that's being above, right? Bollinger Band looks like it's very, very nicely expanded. Most likely price wants to go up higher over the next 12 months or so. How much higher? That's a good question. Let's see how much higher it could go. If you look at some of the potential resistance and support levels, by looking at the GAN here, it's very, very interesting in terms of what it's doing. It got above this horizontal resistance over here. So the next step is probably going to gravitate up here towards around the $25 range, perhaps at the bottom of this arc over here. And if you're able to break through the arc, you're really talking about going to 35 to 30 to $36 here in a hurry, which you have some price action history over here too from IPO. And you can also see that this is also another volume shelf level over here. So really, once you break above like 25, you break above these arc, there's not really a whole lot of volume shelf history over here. I suspect that these arc might be easily broken, but it may not be, right? But if it's easily broken, you're really talking about perhaps like 35 in a hurry, where you're going to see a confluence between this horizontal line over here with again the 0.382 retracement level here on the Fibonacci retracement levels, as well as the volume shelf over here is going to be potentially serve as resistance up here. That's probably the most likely price target, is around 34, 35 is my best guess. How high can it go this cycle? Well, it depends. Is it able to break through all these resistance over here around the 34, 35 zone? Can it go up higher to the next arc, which is going to be around 45, around 50, right? Or could it potentially break into this horizontal zone here around 60? Could it end up breaking back above the previous all-time high and get back to some of these arcs up here around the 80s? All these things are possible, although there's a lot of resistance that you'll have to break through before getting there. So I'm not sure whether or not we're going to be able to break through it to get to these levels up here during this cycle. We will see. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this, and have a good one. Bye.